is like going to a battle. In order to kill, you have to be willing to die. Now, honestly, I don't know if Deep Cover was able to kill this premise of three improv actors going undercover, trying to bust a drug cartel, or was it like a drug overlord? I'm not quite sure. But yes, about that quote, what I'm going to say is that the film does have a novel premise when it comes to improv, and I was quite impressed, especially in the initial few minutes when the film was just getting started. However, as the film proceeded, it just lost me somewhere, and I really can't put my finger on it. Now, don't get me wrong, the film is definitely funny in parts, it is hilarious, but for some reason it felt like the camaraderie between the three actors, that's Orlando Bloom, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Nick Mohammed. It feels like the camaraderie between these three actors is not really the best. Like, it almost felt like the three of them just shot for their scenes and just went back to their vanity vans and came out to shoot again. Even though, again, I'm saying the film is funny in parts. Now, the film basically opens with Hugh. Hugh is this awkward corporate guy who cannot really crack jokes. He isn't really that funny. In fact, his comic timing is completely off. He ends up offending his boss at on one of the occasions. And then there is Marlin, who's played by Orlando Bloom. He does low budget advertisements, but he's really intense as a guy, and he's also very good at making storylines, as he navigates life, which is basically what all improv artists do. There is also Bonnie, who she is very I would or Cat, as we call it, or as we are calling her. She, I would say, is this teacher who teaches improv classes at a bar or a club every night. So there are these three very unlikely people who haven't got the credit that they deserve. I think if you think about Hugh, he isn't really able to progress in his corporate career. There is Marlin, who is really struggling to land, a very serious acting job where he's taken, seriously as an actor. And then there is Kat, who has a bunch of these friends come, bridesmaids. No, they're not bridesmaids. They are her friends, and these friends, they somehow don't really take Kat very seriously, and especially where she is in life, they don't really take her seriously because they obviously think comedy is not a genuine career, and at best, where I mean, no matter how hard Cat tries, she's not going to make big money through improv. So somewhere or the other, all three of these people have been written off by a lot of their friends and family, and now they are recruited by the sergeant of the police, who hires them, who puts them together as a team, and their job is to bring down Fly. Fly is Paddy Condestine. I don't know if I'm getting the pronunciation of Paddy's last name right. So Fly, we're just going to call him Fly. Fly is this drug overlord who the three of them are supposed to catch. Fly is trying to crack a drug deal with the Albanians, and these three supposed buffoons walk in, and they are so smart and they are so good when it comes to thinking on their feet, that they are able to sell the cocaine that belonged to Albanians to Albanians. So it was a very smart maneuver that they did, and that is when that's Paddy. Fly decides to bring them on board, and then now these three people are playing both sides. They are colluding with Fly, and at the same time they are also with the police, and that is how this story begins and continues henceforth. Now, I obviously was quite fond of the premise. Like I said, I think sky was the limit with this particular story, because three improv actors are just thinking on their feet. And if you just really think about it, just how smart this premise is, like, actually a lot of what the police and the investigators do is thinking on their feet. That's literally their job. Like, that's literally what they're supposed to do. They have to think last minute and make things work. So when you really think about it, the premise is really great. Unfortunately, I didn't really find a lot of it funny, and the big reason is the lack of camaraderie. Now, I found the individual punches and the individual gags were quite rip tickling, but there is just no camaraderie between the three characters. You just don't see the three of them bond together, and I just wish that wasn't the case. I was honestly expecting crazy laughs, crazy. I was expecting a good time, and honestly, had this been any other film which did not have such a good premise, I would have been okay with it. But since the premise itself is so good, I was so impressed with how they started with the film that I was really disappointed when it did not go the way I was expecting it to go, and it did not land as well. Now, honestly, the part that really worked for me, I would say, is this hilarious situation between Kat and and her girlfriends, because all of her girlfriends at one point stage an intervention for her. Like, that was the part when, and that was the only part when I really burst out laughing, because that was really unexpected. And then Orlando Bloom is somewhere at the back of that room and he's trying to steal the car keys. I think it was pretty hilarious. And there's a point when Kat says, you know what, I'm just going to rehab. And that was the part which really got me. Again, the Squire, or Hugh, is also funny, but for some reason it felt like he isn't really given the same screen time, and it isn't towards the end that we see a certain character transformation in him when he's suddenly being all badass and giving these snappy one line replies to this villain who's standing in front of him. Again, Fly, Paddy Constantine also has a sudden change of heart towards the end, which I'm not going to talk about because I want to keep this absolutely spoiler free. All in all, the film could have been really, really great. Like, the only reason, like, it's still good. I'm not saying that the film is not good, but the potential of this premise is just insane. Like, sky was the limit with this premise, and I just wish, uh, this was explored to the fullest. The way the film ends, I think it's very likely that there's going to be a sequel as well. There'll be a second part to this, and if that's the case, I will watch it and I'll eagerly look forward to it. And one thing that I would really like to talk about is just how well the Orlando Bloom acting intense arc was working, because honestly it was quite hilarious. And I was like, okay, he's just trying to be like, nobody is taking him seriously, but that's what he wants. He just wants to be taken seriously real bad. It was almost like it was my story put on the screen. So, yes, I think a great film, and I would still recommend you to watch it, because just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean it's not going to work for you. Do give it a chance. It's streaming now on Prime Video, and if you are looking for more reviews and updates from Tribeca, hit the follow button.